Hello everyone, I am Steven Rigor Pensanomadin, a second-year student from the Bachelor of Secondary Education major in Social Studies. And in this presentation, I will be discussing the concepts of race, ethnicity, minority groups, and majority groups. So first is race. It is a grouping of humankind based on shared physical and social qualities that can vary from one society to another. Genetic studies in the late 20th century defined race as a category of humankind that shares certain distinctive physical traits and usually associated with biology and linked with physical characteristics such as skin color or hair texture. So, German physician and anthropologist Johann Friedrich Blumenbach divided humans into five races. First is the Caucasian or the white race. These are the people of European, Middle Eastern, and the North African origin. Second is the Ethiopian or the black race. These are the people of sub-Saharan African origins. And third are the Malayan or the brown race. These are the people of Southeast Asian origin and Pacific Islanders. And the fourth are the Mongolians or the yellow race. So these are the people of Eastern Asia and some Central Asian origin. And last is the American or the red race. These are the people of North American origin or the American Indians. On the other hand, modern scholars views racial categories as is socially constructed, in which race is not intrinsic to human beings, but rather an identity created, often by socially dominant groups, to establish meaning in a social context. So different cultures defined different racial groups, often focused on the largest groups of social relevance, and this definition can change over time. In South Africa, for example, the Population Registration Act in 1950, it recognizes only the white, the black, and the colored people. In Brazil also, in their census, they classify people into brancos or the white, pardos are the multiracial, the pretos or the black, and amarelos or the Asians, and the indigenous people. But scholars continue to debate to which race is categorized, either into biologically or socially constructed. So next is ethnicity. It is a term that describes shared culture, practices, values, and beliefs of a particular group. This includes shared language, religion, and traditions among other commonalities. So ethnicity also is a category that is socially constructed, in which the traits and the parameters of which can change depending on the prevailing social and political context. So ethnicity is sometimes interchangeably with race, but they are very different concepts because ethnicity is based on social traits of the specific groups, while race is based on the belief that a certain group of people share a particular biological characteristics. In short, ethnic differences are not inherited, but they are learned. So next is the majority groups. So majority group doesn't refer only to a numerical majority, but it refers to the group that is a power which is more dominant group in a particular society. They also determine the norms of society as a whole, including the legal system, meaning their culture becomes the culture of the total society. And members of majority groups are likely to be at the top of the economic, political, and status hierarchy, and the decision makers are usually among the majority groups. And last is the majority group. It refers to a group of people whose practices, race, religion, ethnicity, or other characteristics are fewer in numbers than the main groups of the classification. But in some cases, minority groups may have a population more than the dominating groups. However, in the modern view of sociology, minority group refers to a category of people who experience relative disadvantage as compared to members of dominant social group. So members of minority groups often face discrimination in multiple areas of social life, including unemployment, education, housing, healthcare, and among others. In addition, Sociologist Joe Fitchin provided 5 characteristics to be classified as a member of the minority group. So first, they have suffering discrimination. Second, they have physical or cultural traits that set them apart and which are disapproved by the dominant groups. Third, they have a shared sense of collective identity and common burdens. And fourth, they have socially shared rules about who belongs and who does not determine minority status. And five, they have the tendency to marry within the group. So modern sociologists and scholars provided 5 types of minority groups. These are the ethnic minorities, involuntary minorities, voluntary minorities, gender and sexuality minorities, and the religious minorities. So first is the ethnic minorities. It is a group of people who differ in race or color or cultural origin from the dominant group. Second is the involuntary minorities or the caste-like minorities. This term for people who were originally brought into any society against their will through colonization, slavery, or conquest. So third is the voluntary minorities or the immigrant minorities. So these are groups of people who choose to relocate to a particular society in their own volition. So fourth is gender and sexuality minorities. So these are groups whose sexual identity, orientations, or practices differ from the majority of the surrounding society. And the fifth is the religious minorities. These are any group of persons which constitutes less than half of the populations whose members share common characteristics of culture, religion, or language, or a combination of this. So based on the discussion I have discussed earlier, we can conclude that race and ethnicity is different, and also the majority and the minority groups also possess differences. So I guess that's all for this presentation. Once again, I am Steven Rigor Mandin, and thanks for watching.